Blue ocean, golden sand, green palm trees, fresh fruit. This place is like a paradise. It's good that Luke finally went on vacation. He's sunbathing, drinking cocktails, and enjoying life. Such a perfect day. Maybe too perfect. Luke's smile disappears. Nothing is real. Two signs indicate that Luke is dreaming right now. What are these signs? The first thing is that there are two suns in the sky. The second sign is that the ocean has no waves. Luke gets scared. He realizes he's sleeping. At this moment, a giant kraken comes out of the ocean. It stretches huge tentacles towards Luke and screams out like a siren. How can Luke escape from it? Where should he run? There's no need to run anywhere. This is a dream, and the kraken can help Luke wake up. The monster grabs the guy, and he opens his eyes and realizes he's in a laboratory. He was caught a few days ago. A group of people have been conducting strange experiments on him all this time. It wasn't the kraken he heard. It was a real siren. Flashing red lights illuminate the lab. The room itself is a mess. Lots of stuff on the floor, overturned tables. There are no people, only pictures of some scientists on the wall. There should be a key to the door among all these documents and garbage. Quickly, help Luke find it and escape. And the key is hidden. Not here. It's not needed. The door isn't locked. See? Luke is about to leave the lab. But wait, what does he need to take with him? Look around the room. He can only take one item. Luke should opt for the shoes. They're going to be useful outside. Luke puts on a pair of boots and gets out of the lab. He's in a long corridor. He sees several guards ahead. They start chasing after him. Luke runs away in the opposite direction. There are three ways in front of him. One corridor is filled with toxic gases. The second way is a bottomless dark abyss. The third corridor is so hot that the walls are glowing red. What should Luke choose? The second hall with a chasm. See how the light gets reflected from the abyss? This means there's a glass floor covering it, and Luke can walk on it. Luke runs through the second hall and finds himself trapped. Several guards are standing there and everyone is looking at him. It seems like there's no chance of getting out, but wait a minute, the guards are not dangerous. Why? They're motionless because they're either well-done wax figures or real people who can't move for some reason. Luke leaves the room, and now he's in a long corridor again. The doors close behind him, guards are rushing towards him from the hall, and doctors are running from the other direction. What should Luke do? Hurry up, help the guy before they notice him. Do you see a laundry basket? There are white coats there. Luke should dress up as a doctor and walk past the guards. The guy enters one of the many doors and finds himself in a large room for experiments. This is where they keep their test subjects. There are several locked cells with people sitting inside. They ask Luke to release them. Unfortunately, he can only free one prisoner. But who? A werewolf is locked in that cell. An electrical human is in another. A seemingly ordinary girl is locked in the third one. In the furthest cage, there's a guy with a shark's mouth. Luke should save the girl. Come on, all the other prisoners are scary monsters. Did you expect a trick? Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. Luke opens the cell. The girl's name is Jessie, but she doesn't want to go with Luke. She doesn't believe him. Why? Because Luke is wearing a lab coat, he explains to Jessie that he put on these clothes to remain unnoticed. He's as much of a prisoner here as she is. Jessie finally believes him. Together, they escape from the lab, but the guards and scientists notice them. Our heroes are trapped. There are 3 rooms in front of them. An electrical current is running non-stop through the first one. 3 ferocious lions are in the second room. There's a fire raging in the third one. How should Luke and Jessie escape? They don't have to enter any of these rooms. In the corridor above them, there is an open ventilation hatch. These guys should help each other get in there. They crawl through the vent for a few minutes. Finally, they reach the elevators. But the heads of 2 creatures have got stuck in the elevator doors. One of them is a werewolf. The other is a zombie. Jessie and Luke can only save one of them. Who will survive without their help? The guys save the werewolf because the zombie is no longer alive anyway. He can survive even without his head. The werewolf runs away while Luke and Jessie get into the elevator. The laboratory is located deep underground, so they go 40 floors up. The doors open, and they find themselves inside an old hut. Our heroes go outside and see a winter forest. Jessie and Luke run forward as fast as they can. They hear dogs barking and people screaming. The scientists are chasing them. The guys come to a crossroads. The first way leads to a lake. At the beginning of the second road, there's a sign, "Beware of wolves." The third road leads to a high cliff. Where should they go? It's winter now, so the lake is frozen. Luke and Jessie run across the lake and find themselves in a clearing. 2 guys are standing there. Both of them seem normal. They ask Luke and Jessie if they can come along. Luke feels that one of the guys is not who he claims to be. How can he figure out which one it is? If you pay attention to the footprints in the snow, you'll see how this guy appeared here. But there are no footprints near the second guy. How did he get here? It's suspicious. Jessie and Luke agree to take along the first guy. His name is Max. He says he's also escaped from the lab. He knows there's a road somewhere nearby, so they decide to find it. They wander through the forest for several hours. No one seems to be chasing them anymore. But now, they have a new problem. They're cold and hungry. Sometime later, they see a small house where they can warm up. But the door is locked. Where's the key? See this scarecrow next to the forest? The key is in its hand. The guys open the door and find food and clothes. They rest, eat, and get warmer. Soon, they're ready to set off. There's an old car in the backyard. There's even some gasoline in its tank. But when Luke is driving it out of the yard, the car runs over a nail. The tire is punctured. Now they have to walk again. It's getting darker and colder. Despite warm clothes, our guys start freezing. How can our heroes keep warm? There are old dry leaves, moss, and grass under the snow. Luke, Jessie, and Max put all this inside their clothes. Yeah, they stain their t-shirts and sweaters, but they also create an additional layer of protection against the cold. Finally, they're near the edge of the forest. Through tree branches, the guys see a road illuminated by moonlight. They're saved. Now they only need to catch a car. Max, Luke, and Jessie walk along the highway and finally see headlights. Luke raises his arm to stop the car. A small pickup truck is slowing down. The driver rolls down the window and asks if the guys need help. Jessie quickly tells him everything that has happened to them. The driver asks them to get in the car, but Luke doesn't want to. He's sure that this man is one of the bad guys. How has Luke figured it out? When Luke woke up in the lab, he paid attention to the pictures of the scientists on the wall. This driver is one of them. The guys run back into the forest where they come across a pack of wolves. The hungry animals surround our heroes. One of the wolves is about to attack, but a loud howl scares it, and it runs away. A monster covered with fur comes out of the bushes. Max screams and is about to run away, but Jesse and Luke look calm. Why? Because this is the werewolf our heroes rescued from the elevator. They follow the monster. It leads them to a safe place. This is a small village hidden deep in the forest. Creatures that don't look like humans live here. Werewolves, bird people, merfolk, and humanoid trees. They used to be people, but the scientists changed the structure of their DNA. Now these creatures are going to destroy the laboratory to take revenge. While Luke, Jesse, and Max are resting, you have time to check your score and find out how useful you've been in this adventure. 0 to 3 points. Luke wouldn't have gotten out of the lab if he had listened to you. It's still difficult for you to get out of tricky situations. Maybe you were too nervous. Or perhaps you should work on your ability to focus. 4 to 7 points. You've been helping the guys get out of trouble pretty well, but still, this is not enough to become a team leader. You'll definitely get better after a little more practice. 8 to 11 points. You can find a way out of almost any difficult situation and deal with any problem. Just a bit more, and you will become a perfect leader. 12 to 15 points. You're a real hero. You can successfully overcome any difficulties and lead large groups of people. Don't lose your focus. It'll help Luke and his friends in their next adventures. 16 to 17 points. You're the best of the best. Problems don't scare you. They entertain you. At first, you'll be a Sherlock trainee. Look carefully at the pictures and pay attention to the smallest details to solve the riddles. Which one of these students has 3 mothers? It must be this guy right here, the one with the 3 sandwiches. The guy with 3 glasses got them from the cafeteria. He must be very thirsty, but it's not a sign of 3 mothers. But this one definitely brought sandwiches from home, so I bet it's him. Let me know if you disagree. Let's move on. One of the girls has a pet at home. Can you guess which one? It's the girl in the middle. Look, her hands and arms are scratched. She must be living with a cat. Okay, look at these 3 people. Who is a vampire? It's this guy. See, he doesn't cast a shadow. Something's wrong. Chastity was at a party and met 3 guys. All of them claimed to be pilots, but one of them lied. Can you guess who's not a pilot? Pilots must have perfect eyesight. This guy is wearing glasses, so he's not a real pilot. Look at these 3 students. One of them is left-handed. Can you figure out who exactly? It must be this girl. The outer side of her left hand has some ink stains. It happens when she writes. Since we write from left to right, her arm covers everything she's just written. 3 best friends met for a coffee in the evening. Can you tell which one of them has a pet? Look at this girl's bag. There's dog food in there, so she probably has a dog at home waiting for her. This one is super easy. 3 sisters came to visit their parents. One of them got engaged while she was away. Can you tell which one? It's this girl who's wearing a ring. 3 men came to a job interview. The company didn't want to hire fathers because they needed full commitment for the first year. All men said they were single and had no families, but one of them lied and actually had a daughter. Which one? It's this guy here. Why would he wear a pink scrunchie on his wrist if he wasn't making his daughter's hair right before the interview? Okay, now let's go and look at people's houses. Here are the bathrooms of Daryl and Tiberius. Which one of them has a girlfriend? It must be Tiberius. Look, there are 2 toothbrushes in his bathroom. Nevaeh and Nicolene are students. Both of them live in a one-room apartment with their friends to split the rent. Their mothers once came to visit. Take a look at Nevaeh and Nicolene's bedrooms. Can you tell which one of them is dating her roommate? It must be Nevaeh. In Nicolene's bedroom, there are 2 single beds, and in Nevaeh's bedroom, there's just one big bed. Look at these 3 friends. One of them isn't really a human, but which one? Look, this guy right here has only 4 fingers. Perfect, we trained you well. Now let's solve some cases. The city bank was robbed, and Detective Callum was on the case. After a long investigation, the police managed to track the robber and found the money hidden in the nearest desert in a cactus bush. They couldn't see the robber's face, but there were 3 suspects. Take a look at the people. Who is guilty? It's this man. Look, he has many scars on his arms and hands. He must have gotten them when he was digging the money in the cactus bush. A group of friends asked Billiam if he wanted to join them on a hike that weekend. He said that he couldn't because he had broken his arm. The next day in school, Billiam, indeed, appeared with a broken arm. So he stayed at home and his friends went hiking. On Monday, the friends met in school again. Billiam said that he had just stayed home watching TV. His friends told him about the hike and asked why he had lied about the broken arm. Why did they decide that his arm wasn't really broken? Last week, Billiam's right arm was broken. On Monday, it was the left one. He must be faking it. Mr. Tucker called the police and reported that he had been robbed. Detective Callum arrived at his place and found Mr. Tucker tied up to a chair. Mr. Tucker said that he had been sleeping when someone wearing a mask had broken into the room. They took him right out of the bed, tied him up to the chair, and then took all the savings he was keeping in the wardrobe. When they left, he managed to call the police because his cell phone was in his pocket. Still, Detective Callum didn't believe him. Why? Mr. Tucker said that he had been taken right out of bed, but the bed was perfectly made. I doubt that a robber would care enough to make Mr. Tucker's bed on their way out. Detective Callum was spending the winter holidays at a ski resort with his friends. In the morning, they were going to go skiing on the fresh snow that had fallen at night when a local police officer called him and asked him to come to a hotel nearby to solve a case. So, Detective Callum had to go. Someone robbed the cashier's desk and there were 3 suspects. Questley said that she was in her room all night sleeping. Egbert said that he was out partying in a different hotel and had just come back around an hour ago. Fenton said that he had been binge-watching a show all night but hadn't stolen anything. Who is guilty? It was Egbert. If he had just returned, he would have left his footprints on the fresh snow, but there were no footprints leading to the hotel as Detective Callum was walking there. And the name Egbert will make anyone suspicious. There was a car accident in the suburbs, and police arrived to investigate the case. The driver went into a cliff right where the road was taking a dangerous turn. The car turned around, and he was pushed out of it and got stuck nearby. He had his cell phone on him, so he was able to make a call. A police officer helped the driver out and asked him to show what was in the trunk. The driver gladly opened it with his keys. In the trunk, there was his suitcase, some instruments, and a spare tire. The police officer said that the accident had been staged. Why? The driver took the keys out of his pocket. If it had been a real accident, the keys would have remained in the car. Mr. Grayson called the police and said that she had been robbed. Detective Callum arrived for the investigation. Here's what she said. "It was almost midnight. I was in my room upstairs painting. Suddenly, the power went out. There was no light or electricity, and I could only see the streetlights outside. Then, the stationary phone rang. I was scared, so I didn't pick it up. I stayed upstairs, and in about 10 minutes, the light came back. I just went to sleep, and now, in the morning, I found out that someone stole my grandma's diamond ring. Detective Callum didn't believe her. Why? If the lights and the electricity were out, how would a stationary telephone ring? This lady is making things up. Gavin drove to get some groceries and parked his car in front of the store. Of course, he forgot where he had parked and couldn't find his car. Luckily, he had taken a picture of his parked car and he opened it to look up the number of the parking lot. The problem is that his parking lot number is covered and the number of the lots nearby doesn't make any sense. Can you figure out what's Gavin's parking lot number and where he should search for his car? The numbers are just turned upside down in the photo. The numbers are 86 through 91, and his car is parked in 87. Now I have a short logo quiz for you. I'll show you a logo and you have to tell the company. Here's the first one. Do you recognize it? It's Honda, a Japanese car brand. This one is super easy. What is it? This is Pepsi, of course. What about this cute crocodile? Does it ring a bell? This is Lacoste, a French clothing brand. Another easy one. I bet you have it on your phone. Yes, of course. That's Spotify. What about this one? Yes, it's Nike. This one is a very fancy brand. What's your guess? That's Louis Vuitton. Okay, another one for you. It's harder, but you've got this. What's your call? This is Reebok, an American footwear company. Do you recognize this bull? Is a Lamborghini logo. This is a painfully familiar yellow rectangle. Where is it from? That's the National Geographic logo. Porsche and Vinette live in a country where postal services are super unreliable. Everything sent by post is stolen from the package. How can Porsche send his wife, Vinette, a diamond ring if both of them can buy locks, but don't have keys from each other's locks? Porsche can lock the box with the ring and send it to Vinette. When she receives the box, she should lock the box with her lock and send it back to him. When he receives it, he can open his lock and remove it, and send the box back to Vinette with her lock only, so that she can open it once she gets it again. There is a box filled with balls of different colors. 5 red ones, 8 blue ones, and 11 purple ones. Ninja has to pick out balls blindfolded until he's sure that he has at least 2 balls of the same color. What's the minimum number of balls Ninja should take out to be sure of that? Worst case scenario, he'll be picking out the balls of a different color every time. There are 3 colors, so if he picks out 3, they might all be different. But if he picks out 4, then the additional one for sure will match one of the existing colors. So, Ninja should pick 4. Who is wanted? The girl on the right. She has the same mole as the girl on the poster. Who is an identity thief? It's the man on the right. His real ID is sticking out of his backpack, which means he must be showing a fake ID. Who is an imposter? The girl on the left. The script she's reading is turned upside down. It means she only pretends to be an actress. Who is the real thief? Both of these men are thieves. While one man is distracting the girl, the other is preparing to steal her phone. The last will of Mr. Wilson, a rich businessman, got stolen. There were 5 people in the house at that moment: Mr. Wilson's wife, their cook, butler, maid, and gardener. They all told the detective what they'd been doing that evening. Mrs. Wilson was sitting by the fireplace embroidering. The cook was making breakfast. The butler was supervising several workers in the living room. The maid was sweeping the floors in the hallway. The gardener was watering the plants in the greenhouse. Right after this conversation, the detective arrested the thief. Who is the culprit? And how'd the detective figure it out? The cook is the thief. He said he'd been preparing breakfast, but the crime happened in the evening. Lily owned a flower store. One day, she got a call from the police. They told her that her shop had been robbed. When she arrived, shards of glass were on the ground near the store, and the pots and plants inside were broken. The police questioned 3 suspects. Jacob, Lily's ex, said, "I was in a hurry and didn't notice that the windows were broken when I was passing by the store. I only realized what had happened when the police called me." Camille, Lily's friend, said, "Lily asked me to help her with something in the store. When I arrived, everything had already been broken. I called the police immediately." Matt, Lily's ex-coworker, said, "I was walking nearby and I saw someone breaking a window and sneaking into the shop. I left my phone at home, so I ran to the police station." Can you guess who's lying? Matt is lying. Shards of glass were laying on the ground, which meant that the criminal had to break the window from the inside. Let's take a little break. Now, you need to think fast. Mary's mom has 4 daughters. One daughter is called April, the second is named May, and the third daughter is June. What's the 4th daughter's name? It's Mary, of course. Who doesn't belong to this list? Napoleon Bonaparte, Queen Elizabeth, William Shakespeare, Sherlock Holmes, Aristotle, Christopher Columbus, Donald Trump. Sherlock Holmes. He's the only fictional character on the list. 8 girls are in the house, and each of them is busy with something. The first one is cooking dinner. The second one is lighting the fireplace. The third girl is playing chess. The 4th one is reading a book. The 5th girl is drawing a picture. The 6th is cleaning up the house. The 7th girl is watering the plants. What is the 8th girl doing? She's playing chess with the 3rd girl. One woman turned 40 in 1850, but in 1860 she was 30 years old. How could this happen? This could only happen if 1860 was earlier than 1850, which means that the woman turned 40 in 1850 BCE and 30 in 1860 BCE. An artist was walking in the park when it suddenly started raining. He had neither a hat nor an umbrella to cover his head. He also couldn't hide under a tree because the downpour was too heavy, and still, not a single hair on his head got wet. How can that happen? The artist was bald. Now let's get back to our detective riddles. Robert won $1 million in the lottery. He decided not to tell anyone about this, including his wife. At home, he put his money in a safe hidden behind a painting. The next day, the money disappeared. The police invited all the suspects for questioning. Emily, Robert's wife, said, "In the morning, I went to my husband's home to clean up there. The safe was open and there was nothing inside." James, Robert's business partner, said, "Poor Robert, he always wanted to win a lottery. I stayed at home all day and yesterday and watched TV." And Mark, Robert's friend, said, "I was at the gym last night, then I went home. I can't imagine why anyone would do this." The police arrested the thief. Can you guess who it was? Robert's business partner did this. Robert didn't tell anyone that he'd won the lottery. His wife noticed an empty safe when she entered the office, but she didn't know what was inside. Marina was participating in a figure skating championship. She was a very strong competitor, and many people believed she could win. When the time for a warm-up ran out, all the participants started preparing for the performance. Marina was the first. She was amazing, but suddenly she tripped, fell down, and broke her leg, which made her unable to continue. The investigation revealed that someone had ruined her skates. The police interviewed 3 suspects. Anna said, "I didn't do anything, but I saw Jacqueline and Kate walking into the locker room before Marina's performance. They're the ones who ruined her skates." Jacqueline said, "Yes, I indeed went into the locker room to take my things, but I didn't see Kate there." And Kate said, "Yeah, that's because I've been practicing in the gym until it was my turn. Besides, Anna is lying. I saw her in the locker room." Can you guess who's lying? Kate. She couldn't train in the gym because the time for the warm-up had been over by the time the competition started. Here's what happened. Kate went into the locker room and ruined Marina's skates. Jacqueline came into the locker room after her, and that's what Anna saw. Jane is afraid that she might have a stalker. She brought some photos of herself and her friends to the police. The police immediately found the culprit. Who is Jane's stalker? Jane's friend Mike. He's the only one who is present in all the photos, and sometimes he even tries to conceal his identity. The investigation didn't have enough evidence to prove the suspect was guilty. Detective Reed decided to investigate their house, hoping to find some clues. And he actually did find something. He discovered a secret room. However, it had a combination lock and the word "idea" written above it. Do you have any idea what the code might be? "9451. The code is the number of each of the letters in the alphabet. The door opened to the suspect's secret office. At first glance, there is nothing suspicious inside. A table with a book in the middle, some dusty furniture, and a picture on the wall. The detective examined the painting and found a safe with a 3-digit code behind it. Next to it, there was a note with a hint. P270L7-8. Can you guess what the detective needs to do next? The detective realized that the note meant page 270, lines 7 to 8. He should check out the book on the table. The detective found the necessary lines on page 270. They read, "After wandering through the desert for 4 days and 3 nights, I came across a couple of travelers. They fed me and gave me one of their camels." This is a clue that can help crack the code to the safe. What is it? "721. 4 days and 3 nights makes 7. A couple of travelers is 2. And don't forget about 1 camel." The detective opened the safe and found the evidence that proved that the suspect was guilty. In the middle of the night, someone stole a unique artifact from a museum. The museum guard claimed it had been a robber. Detective Ridd arrived at the crime scene immediately and questioned the guard. The man said, I was walking around the museum. Suddenly I saw a dark shadow. I called out to them, but they didn't respond. But Detective Ridd noticed that something was wrong with this story. Can you guess what it is? There are only one person's footprints on the floor. If there was the guard and the criminal in the museum, shouldn't there be two sets of footprints? Detective Ridd asked the guard what he did next. The man said, I ran after the thief and saw them break the glass door and steal the artifact. The alarm didn't go off, as they had probably turned it off. Is the guard telling the truth? The door is indeed broken, but it's also open. It can only be opened with a key. It looks like someone opened the door to prevent the alarm from going off, and then broke the glass to hide the traces. The detective asked the man what had happened next. The guard said, I ran up to the criminal and tried to stop them, but they sprayed something in my eyes, and I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I immediately called the police. Is he telling the truth? His eyes look totally fine. The robbery happened just a few hours ago. If the guard was telling the truth, his eyes would at least look red. He must be lying. The guard turned out to be the thief and was arrested. Mr. and Mrs. Luce have 7 daughters. Each daughter has one brother. Can you tell how many people there are in the family? The correct answer is 10. Mr. Luce, Mrs. Luce, 7 daughters, and 1 brother. Dr. Luce is a world-famous chemist.
Wow.
He has just arrived in London to attend an international science seminar. The next morning, the lab cleaner found Dr. Luce unconscious on the floor. One of the 6 lab assistants poisoned the chemist. The names of the 6 assistants are Austin, William, Oscar, Leo, DJ, and Robert. To solve this case, lab managers called the local detective, Mr. Smith. Dr. Luce left this mysterious note on the table. Here's what he wrote: 76, 20, 44, 79, 16, 22, 7. After reading the note, Mr. Smith asked the police to arrest 2 criminals. Who are the criminals? Oscar and Dustin. Remember that Dr. Luce is a chemist? He encrypted the names of his enemies using the periodic table hanging on the wall. Dr. Luce got better and returned to his work in the lab. He invited a young scientist, Oscar, for a job interview. His resume was too good to be true, so Dr. Luce decided to check Oscar's logical thinking. He offered Oscar to solve this number puzzle. Oscar cracked this task right away. What about you? Here's a little hint. You should read this puzzle from left to right and from top to bottom. Question 1. What are the next 2 rows of numbers? And question 2. Why? Here's the correct answer. Line 3 represents 2 1s. Line 4 then becomes 1 2 and 1 1. Line 5, therefore, is 1 1, 1 2, and 2 1s. Using the same logic, we can now decode line 6, 3 1s, 2 2s, and 1 1. Line 7 is 1 3, 1 1, 2 2s, and 2 1s. Dr. Luce hired Oscar and took him to the basement of the lab, but someone has changed the password on the door. Can you help the guys guess the code? This rebus is a hint. The correct password is summary. Dr. Luce offered one more riddle to his new employee.
How can a man go 8 days without sleep?
Can you help Oscar crack this one? The correct answer is easily, because people sleep at night. In the basement, Dr. Luce found out that someone had stolen his latest innovation, a superhero costume.
Oh no!
He had questioned 3 suspects. Jack, the cleaner, said,
I've been cleaning the floor in the hallway all morning. I haven't entered your office yet.
Peter, the lab assistant, said, I was working on my own project, and besides, I don't have a key to your private office. And Dr. Luce's wife, Helen, said, You never tell me anything about your work. How would I know what to steal? Dr. Luce took fingerprints from the closet where the costume was. But he found only his own fingerprints. Who stole the costume? It was Helen. She's the only one who's wearing gloves.
Oh.
After a short interrogation, Helen confessed that she had sold the costume to Dr. Luce's major enemy, Dr. Phillips. Dr. Luce went to his lab to take his invention back. A creepy guard stopped Dr. Luce at the entrance and asked for a password. Can you help Dr. Luce find out the code? See the sign on the wall? You should rearrange these letters to spell just a single word. So, the correct password is a single word. Dr. Luce entered the building and found himself in a strange place guarded by 2 people. One of the guards always says the truth, while the other one always lies. Dr. Luce doesn't know who is who. He can only ask one question to escape. What should he ask? If he asks the guard who always tells the truth, he would tell that the other guard would point to the dangerous door. And if he asks the guard who always lies, he would tell the opposite door of the truth-telling guard and point to the dangerous door. In either case, both guards will point to the dangerous door, and then Dr. Luce should just choose the other door. Dr. Luce entered the room and saw this group of scientists. Can you spot anything weird in this picture? The scientists are holding 4 slices of pizza in their hands, but only 3 pieces are missing from the pizza box. Dr. Luce entered Dr. Phillips's office. The room was empty. Can you help him find anything suspicious? Someone is hiding in the ceiling vent. Suddenly, Dr. Luce saw Dr. Phillips flying around in the superhero costume. He grabbed Dr. Luce, took him to the top of a mountain, and left him there alone. Dr. Luce wandered around and found 3 tunnels. There's an angry, hungry lion in the first tunnel. There's a huge fire in the second tunnel. And the third tunnel leads through a dinosaur lair. Which way should Dr. Luce choose? The third one. Dinosaurs became extinct millions of years ago. Dr. Luce came to a village and asked the local farmer, Rick, for a glass of water. Rick told him that he'd been struggling to divide his entire land between his 2 sons. Both of the sons have been very good to him, and now Rick's only wish is to treat his sons fairly and divide his land equally between them. But the problem is that the land has a weird shape, and thus there's no way to split it into 2 equal halves. Dr. Luce said,
I have an idea. It can guarantee that the land will be divided in a manner that will satisfy both sons.
Can you guess what's on his mind? All Rick needs to do is ask one of his sons to divide the land into 2 parts and tell him that the other son will have the choice of selecting one of those 2 halves. In this manner, both of them will avoid any tricks and divide the land equally. Dr. Luce was sitting at the local restaurant. He was sad because he'd lost his wallet during his adventures. He noticed a man next to him pulling a wad of $100 notes out of his pocket. Dr. Loose turned to the rich guy and said,
Hey, I have an amazing talent. I know almost every song that has ever existed.
The rich guy laughed. Dr. Loose then said,
I'm willing to bet you all the money you have in your wallet that I can sing a genuine song with a lady's name of your choice in it.
The rich man laughed again and said, Okay, how about my wife's name? Helga, Fiona, Mary, Rose, Holmes. This evening the rich man went home poor, and Dr. Loose went home rich. What song did he sing? The Happy Birthday Song. The villagers told Dr. Loose mystical legends about the local forest. He liked creepy stories and decided to go there and see it for himself.
Oh, really?
He set off at night and soon got to the forest. He noticed a small shop nearby. The seller said, Hey bro, don't go to this forest unequipped. Take this magic potion. It will make any creepy monster fall asleep for 10 hours. Dr. Loose took one bottle and continued the journey. He wandered there for several hours, but he didn't see anything mysterious. Dr. Loose was about to leave right before dawn. Someone appeared in front of him. A pair of vampires that feed on humans and a siren who hunts people using her singing. So there are 3 enemies, but Dr. Loose has only one potion. What should he do? The sun will rise in a few seconds and vampires will run away. That's why he should pour the potion at the siren. Dr. Loose found an abandoned castle. As soon as he entered, someone locked the door. Dr. Loose found 3 ways out, but all of them were dangerous. The first path was full of hungry wolves. It was impossible to get through. The second passage was guarded by 5 vacuum cleaner robots that were reprogrammed to hunt down humans. And the third passage was filled with molten lava. What door should he choose? The second one. The vacuum cleaners might go after him, but they're pretty harmless. Finally, Dr. Loose returned to his hometown. He's also a college teacher. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough time to prepare for the upcoming class. Therefore, he offered the students this tricky lesson. There was no homework, assignments, or tests, but there was a final test that would have only one question on it. When everyone received the test, it was a blank sheet of paper with a question on it. What is risk? Most students managed to give their answers, but only one student deserved the highest grade.
Yes!
That's weird because he only wrote down one word. What did he write? His reply was this. Dr. Loose went on a business trip to Vienna. He felt very nervous because he was about to meet a lady he used to date in college, Jane. She's also a scientist who's currently working on immortality pills. That's why she asked Dr. Loose to come over and help her. As soon as he entered her office, he knew that something had gone wrong. 3 zombies were standing in the room. Can you tell which one is his ex-girlfriend? Take a look at Dr. Loose's hand. He has a tattoo, T plus J. So his girlfriend is the second zombie because she has a tag on her foot that says Jane. Amy's elder sister Vicky gave her this shopping list and asked her to get some groceries. Amy took the list without even looking at it. But when she arrived at the supermarket, she realized that her sister had pranked her. Vicky has encoded the names of the products she needed. Can you help Amy figure out what she's supposed to buy? Here's the first product. It's blueberry. What about this one? Watermelon. Can you recognize this food? That's right, it's kiwi. Here's the next rebus. Can you crack this code? Grape. What about this one? Pineapple. Great job. Next riddle. Any ideas? Vicky needs some bananas. And how about this food? That's right. Amy should buy some oranges. And here's the final product. Can you figure out what it is? Lemon. Amy took everything she needed and headed to the cashier. He said,
I'll give you a 90% discount if you manage to solve my riddle.
Amy agreed. Here's the riddle.
If you had 3 apples and 4 oranges in one hand, and 4 apples and 3 oranges in the other hand, what would you have?
Can you help Amy crack this riddle to save some money? Try to think outside the box. Obviously, you must have very large hands to hold all this. Amy left the supermarket and headed home, but suddenly she realized that she'd left her wallet at the checkout. She ran back to the supermarket, but the wallet was nowhere to be found. Amy questioned 3 people standing nearby. Bob, the cashier, said, "Sorry, I didn't see your wallet. I had the other customers." One of the customers, Kim, said, "I think I saw the cleaner take your wallet from the checkout after you'd left." And the cleaner, Nancy, said, "Who do you think I am? I need this job to support my family." Who stole the wallet? It was Kim. She's holding her own wallet in her hand. But there's also Amy's wallet hidden in her boot. Amy didn't want to waste her time, so she told Kim, "I won't call the police if you give me back my wallet and crack my riddle." Kim agreed. Here's the riddle. Can you name 4 days which start with the letter T? It was Kim's lucky day because she managed to solve this riddle. What was her reply? Tuesday, Thursday, today, and tomorrow. Amy, Vicky, and their boyfriends Josh and Greg went hiking and got lost. They wandered around the forest for a few hours and found this sign. There were 3 paths through the forest. The first one would take them to a toxic swamp. No one has ever returned from that swamp alive. Hungry tigers were blocking the second road, and to use the third path, the guys had to cross an ice-cold mountain river. Which way is the safest? The third one. See this sign? It says the river is only 20 inches deep. They can easily cross it. It got dark very fast. While the friends were still trying to find a way to cross the river, their phones had run out of battery, and they only had 1 torch. The river is too risky to cross without any lighting. If all 4 people started crossing the river at the same time, the torchlight wouldn't be enough. Plus, each person would be crossing the river at a different speed. Amy would need only 1 minute. Vicky would do it in 2 minutes. Josh would need 7 minutes, and Greg, 10 minutes. What's the shortest time needed for all friends to cross the river? Usually, people jump to the conclusion that the fastest person should guide everyone. In this case, Amy would have to accompany Greg. It'd take 10 minutes. Then she would need 1 minute to come back. She'd guide Josh across the river. It'd take 7 minutes. Then Amy would spend 1 minute to return for Vicky and make the final 2-minute walk across the river. In this case, the entire process would take 21 minutes. But our task is to minimize the time. That's why we should find a way for the slowest people to walk together. So here's the correct order. Amy and Vicky cross the river, which takes them 2 minutes. Then Vicky comes back. That's another 2 minutes. Greg and Josh take the torch from Vicky and go across the river. It takes them 10 minutes. Then Amy comes back with the torch, takes Vicky, and they cross the river together. That's 3 minutes. In this case, the total time will be 17 minutes. After crossing the river, the guys meet a woodsman. He promises to guide them out of the forest if they solved his riddle. What do an island and the letter T have in common? After the friends answered, the woodsman explained to them how to find the bus stop and disappeared. What did they say? The letter T and the island are both in the middle of the water. It took a while to find the bus station, and the guys got hungry. That's why they decided to buy some food. But only one of these vending machines is safe to use. Can you tell which one? Someone scribbled "cash eater" on this vending machine, so it's probably not working. Cockroaches are crawling all over the food inside this machine. The guys should use the second vending machine. When the bus arrived, the guys realized that they didn't have enough cash to buy the tickets, but the driver was very generous. He said, "I'm gonna give you a free ride if you crack my riddle. It's very simple. Why is 6 afraid of 7? Amy solved this riddle right away. What about you? Because when it was hungry, 7 ate 9. The guys took their seats on the bus. Can you find anything weird here? This elderly lady is transparent. She's a ghost. When Amy and Vicky returned home, they discovered that someone had robbed their house. The girls called the police. Detectives questioned 3 neighbors. Mary said, "Last week, my husband Rick and I were sunbathing in the Maldives. Rick got sunburned, and we had to go back home earlier. We've just come from the airport." Love said, "I think I saw a suspicious guy in a hoodie near your house a few hours ago." Joanna said, "My boyfriend and I celebrated our anniversary in a restaurant. We've just returned home." Who's lying? Mary. She said that Rick had gotten sunburned, but now he looks perfectly fine, and he doesn't look tanned either. Amy decided to get a new job to save some money for college. She sent her resume to the local bank and received an invitation for a job interview. The HR manager offered her a riddle to challenge her logical thinking. Imagine you have an unlimited number of coins in your wallet. What's the minimum number of coins you'll need to make sure that each of these coins will touch exactly 3 others? Can you help Amy get the job? The correct answer is 4. She should place 3 coins flat on the table so that they form a triangle and their edges touch each other. And then she can put the 4th coin in the middle on top of the rest. Amy got the job in the bank. After her first day at work was over, she went home. But on her way home, she realized she'd forgotten her phone in the bank. So she went back and took her phone. Suddenly, the girl heard some weird noise coming from the bank vault. She went there and saw these 3 men inside the room. She noticed that one of them was an imposter right away. What about you? Can you spot him? The 3rd guy doesn't belong here. Look, he's wearing a police badge. He must be working undercover. The robbers ran away and locked Amy and the police officers inside the vault. Now they have to solve this riddle to unlock the door. They have to find a way to connect these 9 stars by using just 4 lines, all without lifting their hand even once. Can you help them find the right way? Such a task requires creativity, and this shape meets all requirements. But maybe you came up with something better. Amy bought flowers for her sister's birthday. She was walking down the street holding the bouquet in her hands. Suddenly, a man in a mask ran up to her, grabbed the flowers, and ran to the nearest restaurant. Amy started crying. A patrol car stopped next to her. Amy told the police officer what had happened. They went to the restaurant together to find the criminal. There were 4 men with very similar bouquets. Can you tell who robbed Amy? This guy. Amy's bouquet was tied with purple ribbon. Vicky organized a birthday party. To avoid uninvited guests, she asked the security guard to set a special password, but her boyfriend Harry, who was most definitely not invited, developed a plan that could help him enter the party. He hid near the door and started to listen attentively. When the first guest arrived, the guard said 12. The guest answered with 6. Then the second guest arrived, and the guard said 6. The guest replied with 3. Harry thought he'd heard enough and walked up to the guard. The man said 8, and Harry replied with 4. After hearing this answer, the guard asked Harry to leave. Why? Because the password is not half the number, it's the number of letters in the word. He should have said 5 because the word 8 consists of 5 letters. Can you count the number of squares in this image? The correct answer is 40.